Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the news that broke today about the I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel, requel, reboot. I'm really not sure what it is, but we're going to talk about what I do know, which isn't a whole heck of a lot, but let's get into it. All right, guys, in the wake of all these legacy sequels, I guess we're getting another one to add to the list.
And the hits just keep on coming.
So there's not much here, guys. There's not even a release date. I don't even know if this is coming out this year or if it's coming out next year or what's going on, but Deadline did confirm that a new movie has officially been greenlit. The article says that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. are in talks to return. I'm not really sure what that means, like what the context of that is. I'm not sure if that means they're still negotiating and trying to come to an agreement, or if that just means Jennifer Caton Robinson, who is the one of the people who pitched this idea to Sony, just wants Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. to come back, but hasn't actually talked to them yet. This article is sort of vague, if you ask me. I mean, it just says they're in talks to return and reprise their role. So honestly, as far as I'm concerned, that could mean anything. So while I would say it's probably a safe bet to assume that they're coming back, there's nothing in this article that definitively confirms that. But as far as I can tell, the movie itself has absolutely, for a fact, 100% been confirmed. I guess Jennifer Caton Robinson, who is set to direct this movie, and Leah McKendrick, who is writing the movie, pitched the idea to Sony, and I guess Sony liked it. And another thing that I was actually really glad to hear is that this movie is getting a theatrical release. I know that we got a direct-to-video sequel, or I don't know if it was a sequel or a reboot. I haven't actually seen it, but I know we got something from this franchise back in 2006. I believe it was I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. If that's wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. Honestly, I really don't care. I heard that movie was terrible, so it probably doesn't even deserve for me to get the name right. But I know it was straight to video, and that's a bummer because a lot of times that literally is the nail in the coffin for a franchise. So to hear that we're actually getting a big screen release for this movie is good news. I will say I'm a little worried that Kevin Williamson isn't coming back, or at least this article doesn't reflect that in any way, but I'm not going to be negative and dismiss this movie before I've even seen it. Radio silence and, in my opinion, even David Gordon Green proved that you don't need to be the original creative force to still make a respectable sequel to a franchise or movie, as long as you respect the source material and are passionate about it. Now, I won't lie, I looked up the other movies that these women have done in the past, and I've never seen any of them, so I really can't comment on their work, nor do I have anything else to compare to, but I really do hope it's good and a financial success, because I love seeing horror succeed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the convenience of streaming, and it does have its perks for sure, but there's nothing like the movie theater experience, especially for horror movies. I am a firm believer that horror movies are meant to be seen in the movie theater because it's an experience, especially if you've got a big crowd and it's a fun crowd. And certain movies, like, I know that like Scream especially, all of the Scream movies are absolutely meant to be seen in theaters. Like, those movies are literally built to be theater experiences. And I've been fortunate enough to see every single one of them in theater. I did not, however, see I Know What You Did Last Summer in theater, neither of them actually. And that sucks because I like them. And I know a lot of people didn't like the sequel, and I get it. I mean, I've heard the complaints. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie by any means. It's, definitely not a good performance by Jack Black. And there was some campy elements to it. So, I see the arguments for why people don't like it. But, for me, there's a lot of nostalgia with that movie. For me and my sister watched both of those movies and the first two Scream movies a lot when we were kids. We loved all four of them. And to me, as a kid with no taste, I thought they were all equally good. I mean, I was just cool with watching any one of them. It wasn't until I got much older that I was able to see things a little more objectively. But I still think it's a fine movie, which actually kind of leads me into another point. I'm not really sure if this movie's going to ignore I Still Know What You Did. I mean, from a business standpoint, I guess I wouldn't blame them because that movie didn't have the greatest response from fans or critics. So if they do ignore it, I would get it, and I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't. Because honestly, like it or not, the franchise did go straight to video after that movie. And the reality is, anytime a franchise goes straight to video, that's generally speaking the nail in the coffin. Sure, there are examples of times where that wasn't the case. There are exceptions to that. Like Curse of Chucky. It's actually one of the better sequels in the Chucky movies, but that's rare. And in the case of I Know What You Did Last Summer, that was definitely not the case because, like I said, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer is widely considered to be an abomination. Like, I haven't seen one single person say anything good about that movie, and I've seen clips from it on YouTube and it just looks horrible, but that's not even where it ends because then we got the TV series like last year, the year before, I don't remember, but I watched the beginning episodes of that and I quit because it was horrible. So I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer technically killed the franchise, but then the TV series doubled down on it. So honestly, this franchise was not in a good place, which is actually why this news has me very curious because like I said, this is, as far as I can tell, getting a theatrical release, and that tells me that when they pitched the idea to Sony, it must have been a really freaking good one. I mean, sure, it probably could have just simply been that they wanted Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt to come back, and they were like, okay, nostalgia, we can work with that. That sells. That clearly makes money. It worked for Scream, Halloween, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. I'm probably forgetting some. This is clearly a formula that works. Now, obviously, I Know What You Did Last Summer doesn't have nearly as big of a fan base or as devoted of a fan base, not that I know of, as any of those other franchises I just named. But it was certainly one of the more beloved horror movies from the 90s. And it does have a fan base nonetheless. So, yeah. I'm sure if they don't just try to make a soulless cash grab and they actually try to make a good movie, it'll probably do okay. And who knows, it might surprise us. It might do what Scream 2022 did and do very well. In fact, I'll be honest, I hope it does because I always want filmmakers to succeed. I want horror to succeed. When horror movies succeed, even if I don't necessarily like them, it still benefits me because that means more horror movies are gonna go to theater. And when horror movies are thriving, the independent filmmakers come out of the woodworks and we get a lot of good, interesting, and creative movies. So yeah, I really do hope this movie does good. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge I Know What You Did Last Summer fan. I didn't like it nearly as much as I like Scream, but I did like it. And to that movie's credit, I do think it had a better atmosphere than Scream. Scream's wasn't bad. I'm not knocking Scream. I mean, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, but it definitely felt more polished, whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer felt darker and grittier and more tonally consistent with what I technically look for in a horror movie. It just wasn't as good of a movie overall as Scream. But what I would really like to see from this film is for them to extract all the best qualities from that original film, insert them into this new movie, and then find ways to improve upon that and update it in a way that pleases all the old school fans of this movie, but also appeals to newer audiences, which is basically what Scream and Halloween did so well. But that's it, folks. That's the news, and that's my thoughts on it. Are you excited for this new movie, or do you wish they would just stop with all these legacy sequels and just focus on original movies? Let me know your opinions down in the comments section, and we can discuss it. Also, go ahead and hit the notifications so you never miss a video. In the meantime, like and share this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.